We are back and we are live. It is Fight IQ presented by RotoWire. Here to talk UFC Buenos Aires. Our main event, Neil Magny taking on the hometown guy. Santiago Ponzinibbio is the main event, co-main event. We have Ricardo Lamas taking on Darren Elkins. Here at Fight IQ, we talk DraftKings, breaking down each fight for your DFS contest. I am your host, the Daily Fantasy Sniper, analyst of Fight IQ, Chris Olsen, Joe, at Real Chris Olsen, at Sun Tzu. So if you hear us mixing up Joe and Sun Tzu, that's why they are interchangeable. Guys coming off, I think, a pretty successful card last week. How'd you guys do? I fared pretty well, and are you looking forward to this card, Joe?
Well, before we start on that, I am compelled to give our listening audience of millions my Sun Tzu lock play on this Invicta card that's right now on Fight Pass. And I fear that I've already moved the line because I gave this play out to the listeners of the Creating Alpha Pod. But at the time, it was Vivian Pereira plus 100 against Mizuki. Now it is Vivian Pereira minus 110. She is still a dog, but that is my Sun Tzu Invicta dog play. Get in on that. Bet with your head, not over it. I had a sweat for the second week in a row last week. It was not nearly the same sweat that I had when I was with Sean at MSG. But I was in a 7-player 1,060 contest where everybody had Yair. So it was one of those weird contests where after the Cerrone-Perry fight, the outcome was already decided. And I needed Cerrone to score another 1.5 points to tie for second and tie for $3,000, or 2 more points to actually win $3,000. So it was another one of those where, it was like the last fight that meant anything. I needed, someone to score a few more points than they actually scored. So as it turned out, I actually did end up losing some money because of that, with a lineup that went 6-0 because it was that kind of card.
It was all us sharps looked pretty good last week. So I again, like I said, I at least had a good week. Chris, how did you fare? Did you manage to overcome Ashley Yoder defeating Amanda Bobby Cooper?
You know what, dude? The past 2 weeks between judges and weirdness happening, like 3 weeks ago, I got wiped out, and I'm man enough to admit it. But the past 2 weeks have just been judges and weirdness happening between Kurt Hollowball and Shane Burgos, and weird decisions I forget what the first
nothing last week should have killed you.
It didn't kill me, but it was just come on. And then Yair at the end. It was just
if you were on Korean Zombie, yes.
That was a perfect Sunday on the perfect cherry rather on the shit Sunday. So I'm ready to move on. There's some weirdness here on this card that I kind of like. I kind of like these weird cards. Because I feel like there's edge to be had in them. So let's get it going.
I will say just the one thing I want to touch on about the judging. Well, there were some weird scorecards last week. I don't really think there were any bad decisions.
Oh.
You could say Yoder and Cooper coin toss, but it wasn't like somebody got robbed. That was a close fight.
De La Rosa didn't win that fight either.
Yes, he did. And it was a clear 29-28.
No. Sanchez landed the harder shots all fight. Come on, man.
That was close. I mean, De La Rosa, though, had the last laugh because he didn't earn his salary.
Nothing was a robbery is the point.
And I played De La Rosa. I played De La Rosa in my 6-0 lineup, and he didn't pay his salary.
You know what it is? It's not a robbery, but it's like, you know what? Why can't the guy who deserves to win just win? I mean,
Agree to disagree on that one. Let's move on. Let's get to this card. Before we start, make sure and check out RotoWire, rotowire.com/free. Check out all their usually paid content for 10 days, no credit card required, season-long all sports, daily fantasy all sports, optimizers, articles, all the good stuff. 10 days, no credit card required. And now let's talk about UFC Buenos Aires, where we are going to have a ton of live dogs, at least in my opinion. Let's start off with a fight where I do like the favorite pretty handily. Narimani, 9,100, taking on Anderson dos Santos, 7,100. Narimani's the big favorite, minus 345.
Sean locking up again.
Sean dropping out.
Actually, some odds on Dos Santos is plus 315. Narimani coming off a win over Khalid Taha. Shoots for a decent double. He was a former Cage Warrior champion. Overall, Anderson Dos Santos, I don't think is a UFC caliber fighter. Making his debut here, I think Narimani has an edge pretty much wherever this fight goes. Although this fight is expected to go to a decision. For DraftKings, I'm not so sure about the ceiling, but I am picking Narimani to win by decision, and he could either keep it standing and win on the feet, or take it down. So Narimani pretty comfortably this week. Let's start with Chris.
Before we start, I need to say what's up to unemployed Mario Yamasaki in the chat. How are you? Thanks for stopping by. That's hilarious.
Listen. I would have rather have Yamasaki in there than the Chad Skelly submission last week.
Oh, that's another one. I forgot about that one. Thank you. That's another one there.
I'd rather have Yamasaki in there. He would have let him go out like a warrior.
I know, right?
Proceed.
But yeah, no, I pretty much agree with you. I don't think Dos Santos is a UFC fighter either. I'm pretty sure this fight is like third string, right? There was a dropout and then another dropout, and then we get Dos Santos. So, I mean, you sort of expect it to a certain extent. He's a wrestler. He comes forward, but he tends to walk straight in and doesn't really throw strikes all that much. So, I mean, he just makes fights so easy on his opponents. They can circle out. They can tag him up as he's coming in. And I don't even think he's that great of a wrestler for all the pressure he puts on. He seems to have a tough time getting takedowns on the regional level. So, yeah, I just think, Narimani should be able to just stick that jab in there and pick him off when he's coming in. He should be the better wrestler. He should be the stronger guy, probably. I think Narimani all the way here.
Joe?
So again, since Sean made a general statement, I'm going to make a general statement. I think it's a lot more important for our millions of viewers to pick up how we're targeting certain fights for DraftKings than actually, who we're selecting to win. And I went back and I looked at a card where I went, 8-3, but I felt like I totally shit the bed because my targets were wrong. My DraftKings targets were wrong. And then I look back, at another card where I went, under 500, but the target fights for DK, all sort of click. So, it's not like this is not as much of a like wins and losses type of podcast where, we're predicting the winners. Like we're not going to get into any of those competitions with guys who are, just, basing off their wins and losses. This is DraftKings oriented. So with that said, Narimani, it's interesting. He's the highest priced favorite, odds wise on the card. He is likely going to score all his points grappling based.
He's not the highest priced.
No, I mean odds wise. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Odds, yeah. Betting line odds. He's not the highest priced on DraftKings, but he's got the highest betting line odds.
Yep.
I see Narimani as having a really solid floor, but potentially a limited ceiling. I am not playing cash this week for the third week in a row, but I think Narimani would be a solid, free square in cash. I just don't know if this goes into the third round. I don't know if he's going to score enough in grappling to make him a worthy GPP play, and his opponent is taking this fight on short notice. I don't know what that means for gas tank. So my pick is Narimani. I just don't know how good of a GPP target he is.
Yep, I agree with that for sure. Next up, Jesus Pinedo, 8,500, taking on Devin Powell, still in the UFC, at 7,700. He actually got a win last time out against Alvaro Herrera, which it says more about Alvaro Herrera to me, the body shot. And then Pinedo, the newcomer, minus 200. Powell plus 185. Give me Pinedo. Powell's not good. He's bad. Pinedo mixes it up. Decent prospect. A little bit wild. I think a little unpolished. He's got a lot of fights for being 22 years old. I think he's got like 20 professional fights. I this is a great introductory fight for him. I'll take Pinedo. And at his price, 8,500, there's, again, it's the second time that I think the line's expanded to, we're getting a little bit of odds value here, and we're going to have 3 straight fights where that happens. I think these early fights, we have some odds value developing. So I like Pinedo everywhere. If Devin Powell wins, he will just screw my night again. There's no way I'm playing Devin Powell. I can't do it. He's horrendous. Joe?
So, first of all, I have a personal code where I never make fun of anyone who sustained a testicular injury, and that's Devin Powell. So I'm not going to make fun of him as a fighter.
But it's a step below Bryce Mitchell's injury, which if you don't know about that, guys, go look it up.
Yeah, it's probably not quite as bad as Bryce Mitchell's injury. Man, I'm stumbling. So here's the thing. And again, I've used this phrase before, the James Tahuna effect. Powell has lost to much better fighters than his opponent has actually beaten. I don't know. I don't believe that the record of the fighters that he's beaten is all that good. With that said, is this a sacrificial offering to a local fighter by the UFC? Perhaps. I am going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to actually pick Devin Powell. And if I get burned by the James Tahuna effect, so be it. I don't have a lot of confidence in this pick. I mean, this is a strange fight. I just can't lay the number on. I don't like a whole lot of the mid-range this week anyway. I think this is more of a stars and scrubs type of card. But
I disagree with you a lot, actually.
I'm gonna take a flyer on Devin Powell here. It's not with a very high level of confidence, though.
If you're an odds-based player, and I'm not always, but odds-based, you have to look at Pinedo too. He's minus 200 to 8,500.
I agree.
Minus 170 to end inside the distance, and Pinedo inside the distance plus 160.
Look,
pretty good number. I get it. I just want to.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It's just I've never seen this guy fight before. I've
watched a little bit of tape. He's not bad. He looks better to me than Powell. He's a better athlete.
Powell does have that jiu-jitsu, though. I mean, and he lasted 3 rounds against Drakkar Klose. So we'll see.
Fair. Yep, we will. I like the mid-range a bunch more between this fight and the next one. But Chris, what do you have on Pinedo? And I'm going to say his name, Powell. No, I knew who it was. I don't want to say his name again.
Okay. No, I don't blame you. I mean, I was actually really high on Ferreira in that fight, and for the first 2.5 minutes, it looked really good, and then one body kick changed it. It's another piece of information that you have to add in, because up until that point, I had never seen Devin Powell throw a body kick that wasn't for anything other than defense to keep his opponent off him. But he threw a couple of hard body kicks, and I think as you mentioned there, Sean, his opponent here is reckless and actually has been susceptible to body kicks, and we've seen them land. So we gotta throw that in the information bank there. But ultimately, I think the pressure and the power is too much. I think the wrestling game is going to be too much. I mean, we can talk about Powell's BJJ all we want, but at the end of the day, we haven't seen him use it to any effect in the UFC. We haven't even seen him come close, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with. Now I have forgotten the name. I'm gonna go with Pinedo here. Can he get a stoppage? I think he can at that, and I think at that price he could be worth it. But the thing we know about Powell is he's a tough dude. I mean, he took about 5 really hard, clean body shots from Ferreira. One of them dropped him. He kept fighting. I mean, he almost died after the fight, but he kept fighting. So if he doesn't get a finish, that could be something to consider. But I agree with Sean. I don't think that Devin Powell is a UFC caliber fighter. So I'm gonna have to go with the aggression and the power and the wrestling game to be enough for Pinedo to get a finish here.
We spent way too much time on that. Laureano Staropoli, 8,200, taking on Hector Aldana, 8,000. And the lower price fighter is our favorite. Lots of odds value, and this is going to keep climbing, by the way. On 5 dimes right now, it's minus 130. Come back on Staropoli, plus 120. I think this will be around minus 150 come fight time. I like Hector Aldana a lot. One of the reasons why I like the mid-range on this card. Looked decent in his first fight in about 3 years against Song Kenan. Won a round, was, I think, winning the second one, starting to slow down, ran into a power shot, and Song knocked him out. Whereas Staropoli is bad. Like, again, I watched this. I watched a little bit of tape on Staropoli. He's in there because he is from Argentina, and the UFC desperately needed Argentinian fighters. He is there to be hit. His ground game isn't very good. I like Aldana pretty much wherever this fight goes. I think, especially in the feet, I think Aldana will probably even stop the newcomer. This line, though, it's just weird. It opened up in such a weird place. Staropoli opened up minus 320, which is just insane, and now he's plus 120. So give me Hector Aldana. He's a low-level UFC fighter, and I know we've talked about levels last fight, and DC says it all the time, but it's totally true. There are levels to this. And Hector Aldana, while he's not a world beater, is on a different level than Laureano Staropoli, in my opinion, unless we have another Devin Powell, Alvaro Herrera type situation on our hands. Chris, you start this one off.
Yeah, I think this would actually even be a little bit worse than the Devin Powell situation. When you look at Staropoli, the records of the fighters that he beats, one of them was literally 1-0. His last fight, the guy was 1-2. So I mean, that's literally the kind of opposition we're dealing with here. The one thing I'll say about him is the shot that he landed in the most recent tape I could find to beat his then 1-0 opponent was actually a pretty nice counter right hand. He sort of hid behind his shoulder to absorb a strike, and then landed a counter flush on his opponent's chin and knocked him down. And I have to say that Herrera, is it right? Herrera?
Aldana.
Aldana.
Is that this fight? Yeah.
Yeah, no. Aldana is susceptible to that. We saw him get knocked out by Song Kenan because he tends to dip his head on the way in, and Kenan just realized that and threw a straight right hand, and it cracked him. So Staropoli could do something like that, but I actually liked a lot of what I saw from Aldana in his last fight. He's got really, really big, hard leg kicks. He tends to blitz forward with power. He's got a decent wrestling game. Lifting up and tripping out the post leg. We saw him do that a couple of times. You honestly have to assume that Staropoli gets finished here, just because. We've seen him actually get thrown around in wrestling exchanges. Herrera's going to be the much bigger guy. He's been subbed out as well. Huh? Aldana. I'm sorry. I'm still thinking of that.
You should get away from this fight.
But yeah, again, could he get hit with a hard counter at some point? Yeah, but otherwise, everything on tape says that Aldana's just going to come in and smash, so he's got to be the pick.
Joe?
Look, there's great odds value here, right? There's tremendous odds value. I agree with everything you guys said, but I want everybody to remember two numbers, and those numbers are 1 and 43. And 1 is the number of fights that Aldana's had in the last 43 months. So everybody should be cognizant of the fact that this guy he's a boxer. He's fought once in 43 months. He looked okay in his last fight before getting KO'd. But, let's not go completely crazy here. Yes, there's great line value. Yes, on paper. I don't know why the line opened the way it did. The lines have been for shit since Nick Kalikas has stopped making lines on MMA, on UFC. But let's just keep that in mind here. I'm with you. My selection is Aldana, but please remember 1 and 43.
All right, next up, Humberto Bandenay, 8,900, taking on Austin Arnett at 7,300. Bandenay, the favorite, minus 240. Arnett, the dog, the comeback is plus 220. I like Bandenay in this one, riding with the favorite here. But it is hard to get a read on him. He's been in 2 UFC fights for a combined total of about 90 seconds. Knocked out Martin Bravo as a big dog. Got knocked out by Gabriel Benitez. Mogo Benitez is legit. Was a dog in both those fights. The Bravo win was a huge upset. Ultimately, I just don't like Austin Arnett. I think he's a little too he's passive at range. He tries to get these kind of grinding type of fights, and ultimately, I don't think he's going to do enough to get a decision here. I don't think he has enough to finish Bandenay, although Bandenay, maybe he's chinny. Mowgli did catch him. Arnett losses to Sandhagen, and Dawodu does appear to be pretty tough. The line suggests Bandenay is going to get a finish. I'm more in the camp that I think if he does get one, I think Arnett is tough and it will be a late finish. But give me Bandenay. Ultimately, I just think Arnett doesn't have a ground game, a takedown game, and he's a little too passive. He is live to the knockout, though. I do think it's a good fight to target for GPPs, just based really on Bandenay's history. Joe?
Well, on one hand, we got a guy that's fought 4.3 seconds in the octagon. And at least he is training at a good camp in Team Oyama. Yeah, this is why this card is there's so much variance on this card. And then we've got, Austin Arnett, who comes from the camp that Sean always fades, Sick Jitsu.
Everyone fades that camp.
That's
everybody seems to fame Six Jitsu in Washington.
Throw body kicks, guys. Just throw body kicks.
Coming off of 3 losses, he is a tough guy. I mean, I don't know why Dawodu didn't put him away. Sandhagen, just brutalized them for as long as that fight lasted. I don't understand the matchmaking here. It doesn't make any sense to me why a guy coming off 3 losses is flying to Argentina on the UFC's dime to fight a quasi-local fighter. Who's fought, 4.3 seconds in the octagon. I don't understand this matchmaking. On paper, this should be Humberto's fight on paper. But again, it's another one of those situations where we haven't really seen a lot of this guy in the octagon. If you're playing mass entry GPPs, you probably want to have 1 or 2 shares of Arnett. I am going to pick Humberto here to win. But again, it's another one of those, I don't know, fights.
Yeah, we got a bunch of those in this card. Chris?
Okay, so this is going to be my first major dog pick of the night. Couple things to say about this. I think Arnett got 2 of maybe the worst style matchups he could have possibly gotten in Dawodu and Sandhagen. You have 2 slick strikers with deep MMA games who like to throw in combination. And the thing about Arnett is he's got a very meat and potatoes pressure boxing game, which I think can be effective if you allow him to lead, which Dawodu and Sandhagen certainly didn't. And also, speaking of which, they're both faster than him too, which is another reason why. The thing I really hate about Bandenay, and I said this coming into the last fight against Mowgli, and he obliged. He did exactly what I thought he would, which is he likes to let you come forward and pick you off with a counter. But that didn't work because Mowgli hit him first. I think that if you are going to let Austin Arnett come forward and play a pressure boxing game with you where he gets to lead the whole fight, I just think that's a fight that he can win. And I don't think a guy like Bandenay has sharp enough counter strikes to make him pay for it. I mean, the knee he hit on Martin Bravo was nice, but it was also, I don't want to say it was fluky, but I mean, if you ran that back 100 times, how many times does he land it? That's the way I always like to think of those kind of things. I really think Arnett, I'll disagree slightly, Sean. He's not a big wrestler by any means, but he does have a wrestling game that he can use here. He might not want to because Bandenay is act up off his back, but I really just think the meat and potatoes pressure boxing game is going to be enough against an inexperienced fighter like Bandenay, who's going to let you control the fight. So for the discount, give me Arnett here.
Okay, let's move on. Alexandre Pantoja, 9,300, taking on Ulka Sasaki, 6,900. Pantoja's the favorite at minus 305. Comeback on Sasaki, plus 275. I think there is Our least expensive fighter on the card is super live. Alexandre Pantoja, good fighter, 3-1 in the UFC, but his wins, close win against Eric Shelton, beat Neil Seary, lost to Dustin Ortiz, and beat Brandon Moreno. I think this is actually, outside of Dustin Ortiz, obviously, this is the worst style matchup he's faced. Sasaki is super long for flyweight. It's also weird we have another flyweight fight, but we'll get past that. Sasaki at range in this one, it's just weird. He's really good in scrambles. I know he was subbed by Jussier Formiga, but he subbed Justin Scoggins. He subbed Janelle Lausa. He's got a sub over Gates, Leandro Issa, someone else. I'm forgetting his first one. I don't remember who it was. Tons of rear naked chokes in the UFC. We've seen Eric Shelton have a little bit of success on the ground against Alexandre Pantoja. I just think in the scrambles, just with the frame that Sasaki presents, he's live off his back. He's live to these scrambles we see at 125. And at range, God, a guy that long in this division, I'm not investing a ton in Alexandre Pantoja as the most expensive fighter on the card. I think Sasaki is live, and while I think Pantoja probably has enough skills to win a close fight, I think it's 29-28 decision. I'm going to pick Pantoja, but Ulka Sasaki to me is the better DraftKings play 9 times out of 10. There you go, Chris. I'm taking a dog for DraftKings. I see Joe chomping at the bit. He's going to go second this time. Chris, are you with me on the dog here?
Well, I'm actually kind of in the middle.
You fun fighter.
I know.
Ooh.
All that suspense, and then I'm going to take it all right away. But I agree with you that he's live. I think he's live in every fight, just for the reason you alluded. He's just such a weird frame for this division that I don't know that guys really know how to handle him. He's had success in pretty much every fight he's lost. Go through every fight he's lost. Hayes, who choked him out?
Formiga.
That fight he was winning round 1. But having said that, I mean, we've already seen a slick back taker get on his back and choke him out in Formiga. So we could see that again here. I also like Pantoja's stand-up. Is pressure boxing, I think, is what he's going to have to do against a really long fighter. He's going to have to he's really going to have to negate that range, which Sasaki is getting better at using. And, I agree with those long limbs. He is a problem. I just don't know if I can trust his entire game. You know what I mean? I think against a guy like Janelle Lausa, it's an easy pick because Janelle Lausa can't wrestle, and can't grapple. But against a guy who can do everything, it's just tough for me to pick Sasaki. I think that Formiga's the more well-rounded fighter. I think he's got the better skills. I just think he's a little bit better everywhere. So yeah, give me Formiga.
Joe?
Wow. Okay. So I get that, people, are down on Novo and Yao as a camp, but Sasaki has only beaten guys that have exhibited poor fight IQ. Okay. I mean, catching Justin Scoggins in that sub. I mean, yes, he had a decent fight against Heist, but I think Heist just toyed with him for 3 rounds. I expect Pantoja to flatten Usaki here. He's got very bad stand-up. His game is submission from his back. I don't see Pantoja as having that type of bad fight IQ here. I get that he's a hard guy to pay up for. This is just, like I said, one of these weird slates here. But I disagree with Sean about the mid-range. I think this is a stars and scrubs type of card. I will be using a fair amount of Pantoja here. I don't think Sasaki is live at all. I like other guys down in that range. Pantoja, the cannibal from Novo União all day.
I like everybody between 8,600 and 7,600 way more than Pantoja. Like everyone I would play in a tournament.
But Joe,
outside of Staropoli and Devin Powell.
I don't even disagree that Pantoja might finish him, but you think it's a waste at 6,900? Like you wouldn't touch it at all?
There are other guys I like.
I mean,
lower.
I don't think I have to go there when I have Ferreira, Heinisch, I have Aldana, I have Botelho, I have, this mid. I have Pinedo in that range. Prazeres, Fabiński. We're going to talk about even Lamas and Elkins. I don't know how you don't like the mid range, but
I do not for DraftKings. Not for DraftKings.
Agree to disagree. This is a good one. You know what? I'm formulating my hot take in my head already.
Nice.
All right, here we go. Next fight. Michel, right? Yeah, Michel Prazeres, 8,600, taking on Bartosz Fabiński, 7,600. Prazeres is the favorite at -125. Fabiński is the dog at +115. The one thing I need to see on this fight still, and I know it's I'm pretty sure it already happened. I need to go find the videos. They've done stare downs, correct? I don't think I've seen video of the stare downs.
I haven't seen them yet, but I think they have.
I need to find it because I want to see how undersized Prazeres is at 170.
But he's undersized against everybody. I mean,
but this is my point here. In this matchup particularly, I would have a problem with that. And Fabiński is that relentless grappling wrestling type. I understand Prazeres has more tools to win this fight. However, his best tool is BJJ. And if he can't get it there, if he ends up on bottom and Fabiński uses his wrestling to hold him there, that's an issue, obviously. And just potentially wears out the gas tank with all the muscle he has. I know he's up at 170. He's still carrying around a lot of muscle. By the way, Prazeres -1, Fabiński +115 at 7,600. He has a little sneaking up in the odds value too, 115 and 7,600. It's not a ton, but a typical week that's around 78, 7,900. So savings of a couple $100. I think this fight is good to target in draft because I think the winner is going to score a bunch. This should be a grappling-based fight, a mid-range grappling-based fight. I like it here. I really I'm going to be wishy-washy because if Fabiński just towers over Prazeres, I'm probably going to lean towards Fabiński as my pick. If I think Prazeres, just size-wise, will be able to keep it upright when he needs to, end up on top in some of these scrambles, and that's the way I'm going to lean. Overall, I like this fight a ton. Gun to my head right now, give me Michel Prazeres at 8,600. But again, I'm playing both sides of this fight. Joe?
Look, I get it. I mean, he's going to have a 6-inch height advantage, right? At least on paper. Fabiński, that is. Here's the thing, okay?
He's one-dimensional.
I still believe that Prazeres is going to have a strength advantage in this fight. Look at who Fabiński has fought, okay? He took Garrett McClellan to decision. Garrett McClellan may be one of the worst fighters in UFC history. Now, here's the other interesting thing. Here's the other part of the narrative. I don't think Fabiński can hold down Prazeres, which is actually not a bad thing. Because if you look at, say, Covington Barberena, Covington could not hold Barberena down, so he just took him down 12 times. And that's gold for DraftKings. So will Fabiński take down Prazeres and have Prazeres get back up again? I'm sure that's a possible outcome. Or Prazeres clearly has the better jiu-jitsu. He clearly has the better stand-up. Will he be able to clock Fabiński as he's coming in to shoot for a takedown? Or will he be able to work a sub off his back? Now, on paper, Prazeres does not have great takedown defense. I believe it's 46%, something around there. This is going to be an interesting fight. I do believe that, it should be targeted for DraftKings. There has been a pretty sizable line move to Fabiński. So I think it'll be an interesting fight to target. I just don't know how anyone could be super confident in Fabiński. I do see him as a semi-live dog in this fight, but, look at the level of competition. I mean, Prazeres has fought so much better competition here, and people consistently underestimate him, and he always seems to come out on top. So I'm going to pick Prazeres for the win, but I can understand wanting to play Fabiński here.
Chris?
I can understand Fabiński too, and especially I know a guy like Sean who loves his wrestler grapplers. You see all those takedowns, but there's a big problem that hasn't been mentioned yet, and that's that he gassed out terribly against Emil Mech. Emil Mech had chances to finish him in both the second and third rounds and just couldn't help but connect himself to Bartosz and just really give the fight away. I mean, he got so tired. And I just think that, as Joe says, if he's not going to be able to hold him down, and I don't think that he will, I just think that he's not going to be able to finish, and at a certain point, he's going to get back up and gas out. You mentioned the jiu-jitsu edge. Obviously, you have to take a shot in DraftKings with all the takedowns for dog price, but I could really just see Bartosz, having a good first round, coming out, not being able to hold him, getting tired, and we all know that Prazeres hits like a truck. It would take maybe one of those overhands to really stun him. Hits harder than Emil Mech, certainly. So yeah, I mean, I could see it going both ways, and I could see Fabiński having a good first round, but ultimately, I see this fight ending in a Prazeres stoppage.
All right, let's move on to Poliana Botelho, 8,300, taking on Cynthia Calvillo at 7,900. Let's see where this line has gotten. I actually haven't looked. This will be interesting. Botelho up to -160, Calvillo plus 150. Look, Botelho was already the hot pick coming into the week, and Calvillo looked like she was on death's doorstep at weigh-ins, trying to make weight. Calvillo's a wrestler. Botelho has some wrestling. I think she's going to be stronger. By the way, there were points in I think Calvillo and Calderwood that she should have got a takedown and didn't in those opportunities. I think Botelho can keep it standing and piece her up on the feet. The issue now is Botelho is going to be really, really popular. I think Calvillo is live if she can get a takedown and end up on top. I don't know how good Botelho is working off her back. That's her only path to victory here for me. And the energy it takes to grapple, I was going to have some shares of Calvillo coming in just because I thought she'd go under-owned. And now she's definitely going to be under-owned, but now even I'm off. She would need that energy to grapple. Give me Poliana Botelho. I think it's clearly a chalk play, but it's one I'm going to eat this week. Who's starting this off? Chris, for this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, for the second week in a row, when she's not fighting, I have to mention Aspen Ladd. I mean, you have to consider that, look, these fighters can look like they're on death's door, and then when they rehydrate and get some food in them, they're basically fine. I
was already picking Aspen Ladd in that fight. This is the different
scenario.
All
right, calm down. But I didn't see the ceremonial weigh-ins, but I did see somebody posted a little clip of Calvillo walking in. She looked fine. She looked absolutely fine. So if you were going with Calvillo and then now you're even more going for her because people will be off her, I say go for it. I mean, I don't think her striking is all that bad. I think she has a tendency to fall in love with it, which I think cost her the Carla Esparza fight. I think she was doing good on the ground, and then they just started, basically having a boxing match, which I don't think is her strength. But I think she can hold her own. I think she's serviceable on the feet. And I just think that, Botelho has a nice kicking game. But other than that, I mean, her striking is pretty underdeveloped, I think. I kind of just see Calvillo being a little bit better no matter where this fight goes. And now that I see that she looked okay, I'm getting smiles over there, so I can't wait
That's craziness. To think
if you think she's going to be better everywhere, come on. Make your pick so I can go.
So what? Calvillo doesn't have jiu-jitsu? What are you trying to say?
I'm saying that she's at a severe striking disadvantage.
Yes.
And a severe strength disadvantage.
Do you think she's at a severe striking disadvantage?
And strength.
Yes. Strength, absolutely. I think is a little closer.
Strength, maybe. But striking, I mean, I don't understand. She has a kicking game. That's
Look, this is a low-level fight, right? This is a low-level fight. Missing weight, but look, and I understand the reason why she missed weight came out. And I always said I would rather have a fighter miss by 2 pounds than miss by a quarter of a pound. but no one at 115 should miss by 2 pounds and look that bad, right? So that has to play into the narrative. Also, I believe, and I'd like to confirm this, she has been spending less time at Alpha Male. I know someone, I'd heard this. I don't know that she left the camp altogether. It still shows up on Tapology that she's with Alpha Male, although I believe someone did tweet out that she has been spending less time there, which to me is a negative. But look, this is a tough fight. I mean, getting outstruck by Carlos Esparza, who's a wrestler,
who has an underrated boxing game.
Okay, fair enough. Look, I don't see how anyone could be confident in either side here. I think what could happen here is this could be an extremely boring, low-scoring fight for DraftKings because Calvillo is going to shoot, and if she can't get the takedown, okay, it's going to be one of these ugly, clinchy, grindy, striking fights that's going to be, horrid for DraftKings. So play this fight at your own risk. I can understand wanting to take a shot with the dog here if you think she's going to get takedowns. That's her path to victory. But this could be a really ugly fight.
I think the odds value on Botelho is going to make her really chalky. And if you disagree with that show, you should probably play cash this week. But we'll move on from there. Marlon Chito Vera, 9,200, taking on Guido Cannetti at 7,000. Odds in this fight, Marlon Vera minus 290, Guido Cannetti plus 260. I haven't listed anything that Brett Appley has done this week, but I know he loves Marlon Vera. Like, he is his biggest fan. I'm sure he's going to play at least 80% of him. By the way, that's exactly opposite. So just so you're aware, probably. The problem is Guido Cannetti's not any good. He got a win last time out against Diego Rivas. He beat the hometown Chilean. He's 38 years old. He's actually looking like he's getting better. The problem here is it's just a bad matchup. If he goes to take down Chito Vera, he's going to get submitted. And on the feet, while Cannetti marches forward and throws big shots, I like the push kick Vera uses to keep distance. I think he'll manage to keep distance using his range. And ultimately, I do think Cannetti will slow down. Give me Marlon Vera at 9,200. This is another – I have an issue with – you like Stars and Scrubs. I have a real issue with Stars and Scrubs because I don't know about the ceiling of any of these guys up in this range. So give me Vera for the win. Joe?
So prior to his last fight against the overhyped hometown fighter, Cannetti was on a 1-4 run. Okay. Not exactly losing to super high competition either. Let's just take a quick look at who Guido here has. Guido, sorry. Kung Ho Kang, Briones, Alejandro Perez, Beltran. Okay, not higher end fighters. He was losing to regularly. He's 38 years old. He is the hometown guy here, right? I mean, Vera has been improving as a fighter. His story is pretty well known, why he fights. Look, I mean, Cannetti will rush out and, will gas out. If he doesn't get what he needs to get accomplished early on, he'll gas out. I do like that, Vera's improving. He's only 25 years old. Won his last fight by KO. Had 2 really tough fights prior to that against Lineker and Andrade. I like him. I like him here a fair amount. We are looking for likely a submission win. He is priced up, so if he doesn't get the finish in the first or second round, there is a chance that he won't earn salary, but I just can't see using Cannetti much. So I'm on Vera here.
Chris?
I feel like I could pretty much just copy and paste all my Vera predictions for the last 3 or 4 fights. He always is too passive, hangs back, gets himself backed up, loses the first portion of the fight at least, and then in the second or third round comes up and says, oh crap, I'm behind, and then starts to push forward and do some work. Sometimes it's enough to get the win. Sometimes it isn't. That's just what you're gonna get when you get a Chito Vera fight. I mean, I like certain things about him. I like his build and frame for the division. He's got a good kicking game. He's got good jiu-jitsu, obviously. He's just so passive. He just gives away so many fights. And as you guys mentioned, Cannetti's going to come forward and push a pace. And he's going to, take the fight to him. Now, is it going to be a situation where Vera gets down on the cards and then has to come back and get a stoppage? He was losing that fight to Luigi Burin, guys. He was losing that fight. I don't know how you can trust Marlon Vera at all. I think he's probably the better. We always say skill for skill. He's the better guy, but I don't know if it matters if you're just going to be so passive and concede so much. I'm going to have a little bit of Cannetti here just because I can't trust Vera to get it done, and I certainly can't trust him to get it done in the first round or a high volume second round.
Look, there are guys I like more in the upper range. Let me be clear about that. There are guys that I like more, like Ponzinibbio, and there are guys I like more. However, I can see the path to victory here by submission in, let's say, the second round.
Someone in chat is saying that Chris's hot take should be that Cannetti scores 170.
Hey,
right.
you laugh. Remember it right here.
Cezar Mutanchi Ferreira, 8,400, taking on Ian Heinisch at 7,800. Line on this fight. Ferreira is the favorite, minus 170. Heinisch the dog at plus 150. This is an interesting fight for me in that, again, Joe, I like the mid-range a lot here. I think, especially for tournaments, I think either Ferreira is going to get a takedown and submit Heinisch quickly, or Heinisch is going with the bombs that he throws, knock Ferreira out who we've seen be chinny in the past. I know he's changed his style. Decision win over Marquardt, submission win over Roberson. In order for Ferreira to score well, he has to find the submission. I think on the ground, though, his BJJ there's a big enough advantage that he will find a submission on the ground. We know about the chin issues. I have a hard time trusting this fight for cash for the reason I just laid out on both sides. By the way, just the color commentary on this fight, there's Ian Heinisch has a piece out on the Players Tribune website detailing his time in prison and one of the islands off his
Rikers Island.
Not Rikers Island. He was at Rikers, but I was thinking about the island prison he was in. I want to say the Canary Islands outside of Spain. Just the prison system out there. It's a really interesting read. Players Tribune, really good piece. It is titled "Have You Ever Been to Rikers Island?" which was where he ended up. Pick-wise, though, I'll go with the experienced guy in Ferreira, but I think it's a good GPP fight. Chris?
Yeah, I actually think this is a really easy fight for Ferreira. I think this is one of my strongest plays. Now, if you are a regular Fight IQ listener, and I know you are, you'll know that I've talked up Marcus Perez as an underrated fighter here. I get mocked for it generally, but if you like Heinisch here, then remember, please, that he recently got finished by Marcus Perez with a arm triangle choke from the bottom. So that should tell you a little something about his BJJ. He wants nothing to do with it. And it's so strange too, because he's primarily a wrestler, and he's got to avoid guards like the plague. So already, to me, that's a limiting factor for him. He's going to try to blitz in with wild strikes, and I mean really wild strikes, to close the distance. And Mutanchi has been better at keeping range lately, keeping distance. You mentioned that Marquardt fight. I thought he did a great job of keeping his range in that fight, of actually slipping shots. I think that if Mutanchi doesn't roll over this dude, I'll be pretty surprised. Can he catch him with like a big wild shot coming in? Sure, he can. It's MMA.
That's the worry for GPPs.
Yeah, okay, but I mean, even so, not that many. I mean, let's be honest. But a couple shots, fine. But ultimately, as I said, Ferreira is one of my favorite plays on the card. I think he gets this done in relatively quick fashion.
Joe?
Wow. So there's another possible outcome to this fight. Heinrich, a collegiate wrestler, his wrestling could nullify the jiu-jitsu of Ferreira. This could be kind of an ugly, grindy fight, low-scoring decision.
Here's my problem with that. Just, do you think Ferreira can stand in any kind of fight for 3 rounds without getting knocked out? That's my worry.
Well, I mean, if you believe that, then, you should certainly have some shares of the dog, which I will. Look, I was disappointed in the way that Ferreira fought Marquardt. I mean, that's you got an aging guy. That's a guy he should have dominated. I was at that fight in Norfolk. Roberson has no ground game, none, 0. I mean, so that was a good. You and I were at that fight. Right? So that was
Joe. Yeah. Arm triangle choke from the bottom, Joe.
Who?
Heinisch.
Right. Oh, okay. So I get it. But I'm not as in love with Ferreira as you guys are. I mean, I will certainly.
I'm not in love with them.
I will pick him.
I have a love affair. You can direct your comments to me, Joe.
I will cautiously and with some trepidation pick him to win. But I would not be surprised if this turned out to be a boring, grindy fight, low scoring. I will have a few shares of the dog because he's attractively priced. Not my favorite dog, but I will. I'm not going to high weight this fight in my lineups, but I will have some shares. I will pick Ferreira to win, but it's not with the confidence that the real Chris Olsen has.
But do we know? What I heard on a broadcast was that he was a high school wrestler in some college. I mean, does he even have like a real wrestling?
I think it was D3 college. I think. I mean,
he wrestled in prison. If you read the piece,
and not wrestling in prison is for more than just fun. So I would say
so it's like an episode of Oz, basically.
No, it's not American prison. It's just
very good.
The piece.
Very good.
That was good.
I love
it. Like an episode of Oz.
Let's move on here because I'm hungry, and this is gonna get off the rails. Khalil Roundtree Jr. 8,800 taking on Johnny Walker at 7,400. As much as I love Johnny Walker, he is not the alcohol, and he is the dog. He's plus 160, Khalil minus 170. Huge inside the distance prop for this fight. Kill or be killed. Look, we've seen Walker knocked out on the regional scene. If I remember right, he's been hit before. You get hit by Roundtree, you go to sleep. And Walker has the game. If Walker's able to get Roundtree down, he'll win. It's really that simple when you're looking at Roundtree fights until he proves you otherwise. This is a great GPP fight for me. I lean towards Roundtree. I've seen the power. I like his striking style. Ever since his first fight on Tough, the fight to get into the house, when he started throwing soccer kicks on the ground to the solar plexus, I've been a fan of Khalil Roundtree.
Yeah.
Those were vicious. And that was one of those moments I'm like, okay, I'm going to like this guy. And I still do. I wish he had some kind of ground game. He's not a world beater. I get it. But because of the personality and who he is, he keeps getting these favorable matchups. And Johnny Walker is another one. So give me Khalil Roundtree 8,800 for the win. I'll have a little of both sides, though. This is a great GPP fight. Another one, this is more of a stars and scrubs than a mid-tier fight, I guess, technically. Joe, you start this one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, although I agree that it's a fight to target. I have faded Roundtree in pretty much every fight. Even when he fought, the werewolf of Texas, Jolly. I was on Jolly in that fight, and he knocked him out in like 4 seconds. So
I was on him against Sasaki, which is great.
Yeah. So, that was good. So I get it. He hits really hard. He's got no other, facets to his game. I mean, Walker is young. He's fairly athletic. He's 6'5". He's coming off of a 6-fight winning streak. I give him a shot here. I mean, he looked pretty good on, Dana White's Contender Series, Brazil. I think this is a great fight to target. I think you should certainly have some stars of Walker. I don't think Roundtree's a lock by any means. The win against De Silva is not awe-inspiring. But again, I think an athletic guy, 6'5". Let's see, what camp does he train at? Okay, I don't see his camp. Yeah, I guess because I faded Roundtree in every single fight in his career in the UFC, I might as well just fade him again here and pick Johnny Walker. So I love the guy's name. I love a Brazilian fighter with the name Johnny Walker. And you should as well, Sean, because that's a drink that you imbibe in. I would say I will take Johnny Walker here. But forget about my pick. It is a fight to target for GPPs. So target this fight for GPPs.
Chris?
Sean, why so blue? Anyway,
that was terrible.
Anyway,
Terrible.
I wrote that down before I got here. I paid off. It was great.
Bang for your buck, just buy Green Label.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how you could. I mean, this is just going to be a fun mishmash of nonsense until it ends. Right. I don't really know how you could be confident in either guy.
Agreed.
Roundtree is just, you know, he basically just throws from his hip until he gets tired, which generally happens 3 minutes into round one. And I'm not exaggerating by saying that. His fight against Olajusek, literally he came out firing and he was tired in the first 3 minutes. Now we see a couple different sides of Roundtree. He's either the wild striker who comes forward and gets tired, or the wild striker who counterpunches. And we really never know which one we're going to get. He has a good kicking game. I don't know. Johnny Walker is kind of a monster. I mean, you mentioned his size, but with that comes an 82-inch reach. I mean, he's a monster. He doesn't always use his length. He's one of these guys who likes to throw jumping knees, like Luis Pena, who we mentioned last week, which drives me crazy. But when he does stick to the game and throw good straight punches, he's really effective, and he throws high kicks. And I mean, he's more of a willing grappler than he is a good one, I would say. But Khalil Roundtree isn't a grappler at all. So, you know, Roundtree's going to have to close the distance here. Roundtree's going to have to deal with some groundwork. I'm going to go with Johnny Walker to keep on walking in a weird and wild fight.
All right, co-main event, Ricardo Lamas, 8,700, taking on Darren Elkins at 7,500. Lamas is the favorite. I think the line is falling, minus 160. Elkins at plus 150. Look, we know the story with Darren Elkins. Has some grappling. It's impossible to finish, it seems like. Lamas, back end of his career, still a dangerous striker. Has a little bit of grappling. Really interesting fight that's projected to end in a finish, minus 180. No, sorry, projected to go to the judges' scorecards. Sorry, minus 180 to go to the judges. I think Lamas, this one is so tough for me. For skill, most people are better than Darren Elkins, and Lamas is in that camp. It's how much does he slow down? Is Elkins going to be able to outgrit him for a round and a half and steal a close decision? Ultimately, I'm going to pick Ricardo Lamas to win. I can't rely on a guy whose best attribute is his toughness. I've always said that. I think Lamas has just enough to keep this fight standing. The issue is I do think Darren Elkins is going to be one of the more popular plays in the card, which actually makes me like Lamas a little more. So give me Ricardo Lamas at 8,700 as my preferred play. I don't think Elkins is able to out-tough him. Lamas could get a finish, probably just by volume on the ground, but Lamas is the play here. Chris, start us off with a co-main event.
Yeah, I can't pick Darren Elkins in any fight. That's pretty much, he just gets hit way too much. If you're a lot faster than him, you're just gonna kill him. And even if you're not like a really fast guy, like Volkanovski isn't lightning quick, but he was quicker than Elkins. Elkins is just so slow. He doesn't retract his strikes all the way up. He keeps his hands low when he brings them back, which just lets him get tagged up immediately. He has some pretty nice – I mean, I sort of like how he ends his combinations with body kicks and stuff, and obviously his grappling is good. It's what saved him against Michael Johnson. But to me, he's just sort of a punching bag. And his fights, especially recently, have been, okay, well, can I take enough damage before I somehow find a way to win the fight? And I agree with Sean. You just can't pick fights based on that. So I like this as a nice bounce back for Lamas. I don't think that he's got anything like, the power or the in-and-out skill of an Emmett. I don't think he's got the overall talent of a guy like Bektic. I mean, he did beat Bektic, but we all know what happened in that fight. And he was getting massacred until he pulled out a Hail Mary, in case you don't know. So, yeah, I'm going to take Lamas pretty heavily here. And even if he doesn't finish, I really think he can probably pile up strikes and still put up a decent score.
Joe?
Okay, so quickly, Lamas is, has been hearing the whispers, like he's getting older. He's 36 years old. He lost on a split to Bektic. He lost. He got KO'd by Josh Emmett. He has fought the level of competition over the course of his career has been so much better. He's pretty much better everywhere versus Elkins. I want to believe that he's going to throw caution to the wind here and just try to be impressive, because I don't know that losing 3 fights in a row are going to bode well for Lamas. By the way, he was a plus 200 underdog on that split decision loss to Bektic. So I certainly see him performing well here. I don't think he's going to be – I do believe that Elkins will actually be higher owned. He's a fan favorite. He takes a lot of damage. I think, Lamas could be a sneaky little play here to get the finish. I guess technically he might be mid-range at 8.7K, and if that's the case, then I lied. I do like a fighter in the mid-range. My pick here is Lamas, and I don't know if it's a hot take, but I see him getting the finish.
I definitely think it's in play. All right, main event time. Santiago Ponzinibbio at 9,000, taking on Neil Magny at 7,200. Ponzinibbio the favorite, minus 215. Magny the dog at plus 195. Every time Neil Magny fights, I say the same thing, and I get crucified every time. Sometimes I know how Chris feels. Neil Magny is criminally underrated, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's a future champion. He is just people love to shit on Neil Magny. And that's not coming off of, the win over Craig White. I get it's Craig White. Took down Carlos Condit, beat Johnny Hendricks. He lost to Lorenz Larkin. What's interesting, he struggles against guys who are going to blitz him.
He beat Gastelum.
Right. So he's a
long time ago now. Long time ago.
Still, people love to shit on him for reasons I don't quite get. He's long. He doesn't use his length well. I get it. He will struggle when people blitz him. Look at what Lorenz Larkin did, and that's Ponzinibbio's path here. Ponzinibbio has a vicious lead left eye poke, which I guarantee you we're going to see in this fight.
Yeah, won him the Gunnar Nelson fight.
So this fight, though, is closer than people think. I'm on the stack for cash. I think it's Santiago early or Magny late. We saw Neil. We all agreed that we're all over the Mike Perry experiment, right? We're all kind of, and even I've fooled, like Mike Perry isn't that good, right? He had a war with Santiago Ponzinibbio. Neil Magny takes down Perry, and it's a wrap from there. So styles make fights. I think if Magny can use Ponzinibbio's momentum coming forward to land one of the body lock takedowns he loves so much, that's how he gets his takedowns. And he ends up on top. Things could get real interesting here. So I know he was submitted by RDA, but he's got a decent top game. Ponzinibbio doesn't have a ground game. Like I said, Ponzinibbio early, Magny late. Magny more likely to win a decision, in my opinion. Santiago needs to blitz, and he's going to, and we'll see what happens. Both in play for DraftKings. I like the stack in cash. Joe, take us home.
Okay, so look, I pretty much agree with everything you said. The narrative that I would add to this is that, Ponzinibbio is the Argentinian fighter headlining an Argentinian card, the first card the UFC has ever had in Argentina. Is there added pressure on him relative to that? I mean, more demands from media. Is it a distraction? We've found out from other fighters that is truly the case. They actually prefer fighting, away from their home base. Magny's got cardio for days. However, the game plan to beat him is quite simple. Just watch the Lorenz Larkin fight. That was the most brutal display of kicking, to the body that I have ever seen. Watch him wince on those body kicks. If Ponzinibbio comes out and does that and can avoid the takedown, then I'm going to pick Ponzinibbio to win here, but it's not without some caution that if this fight gets into the later rounds, even given that it's Argentina, Magny does have a shot here to pull out a decision if Ponzinibbio slows down, perceivably. So let's go with, and it's not a hot take because Sean already said it, let's go with Ponzinibbio early with a chance, if Magny hangs around, for him to grind something out.
Chris?
Yeah, I like that, Sean, by the way. You said, I don't get why people shit on him, and then proceeded to list the reasons why people shit on him, which I agree with, by the way. I think that, look,
I listed the one reason.
Two of them. I'll give you one more.
Okay.
I'll give you one more, which Joe alluded to. Leg kicks turn him into a quivering mess of nothingness. You saw, Joe mentioned the Lorenz Larkin fight. How about the RDA fight? It was literally one leg kick that sent him spinning into a takedown, and then the fight was over. His leg is stuck way out there. Santiago Ponzinibbio, you talk about that Mike Perry fight, had some of the hardest leg kicks I've ever seen him throw in that fight. So that's going to be a real issue. Neil Magny, he just can't deal with pressure. He just can't deal with it. And Ponzinibbio is going to give him all of it that he can handle. Neil Magny, I guess he can beat you if he can out-wrestle you, but, I mean, is that really what we want to hang our hat on? Here is the wrestling game of Neil Magny. I just don't think that's a really smart investment. I think Ponzinibbio, maybe spends half a round to get his range and then knocks him out. That's about it.
All right, let's go for hot takes, and let's make these quick because I am being called for dinner, guys, and I'm starving.
And I'm starving as well.
So, hot takes, alluded to it earlier. The optimal lineup will have at least 4 fighters from the middle 5 fights. So between 86 and 7,600, I think the optimal lineup is going to have at least 4 of those fighters. So I'm building a lot of mid-range lineups this week. You got one, Joe?
Johnny Walker by KO over Roundtree.
Boo!
Honestly, I mean, we'll take that. I guess I don't think that's that hot, quite honestly. I think one of those guys is going to sleep no matter what. But I will take an underdog knockout. It's not the one that we were teasing in the open. That's called a switcheroo. I'm gonna take Austin Arnett to get the stoppage against Bandenay.
Bold. I can see that.
Both of your guys' hot takes would be bad for me. Joe's less because we'll have both sides.
Yeah.
But that's Fight IQ for UFC Buenos Aires. We'll be back next week for the card in China. There will be a Fight IQ. I may or may not be on, but there will be content for you. Enjoy your holiday. If you don't have time to invest, this is what I want to close out real quick. I know I said to be quick. If you don't have time to research a fight, like Joe said earlier, bet with your head, not over it. If you're not able to do the appropriate amount of research in DFS, play very, very little for fun, or just skip a week. It's okay to miss a week.
Oh, by the way, Sean, we've got to shout out to the guy who on Twitter, and oh my God, I wish I had his handle in front of me. He said thanks to content that we provided, as well as our friend Mike at Guru Elite Med Labs. He's up 5,000 for the month, and he is buying 500 meals for the poor for Thanksgiving. So
that was Mr. Joe Rogan Disciple.
Joe Rogan Disciple. Shout out. That is something like that makes it worth putting the time in when you hear that one, he's won money and he's giving back. That's just solid karma. So props to Joe Rogan Disciple for doing that. Everybody should learn a lesson from that. And
he's a funny guy on Twitter too. You should go follow him. And to wrap up, just because doing good, guys, go buy. I'm gonna curse, and sorry, Jake and whoever else listening to RotoWire. Go buy a goddamn Ray Borg shirt. Go buy a Borg Strong shirt, and let's be done with it.
Sounds good.
Like, don't just be done with it, but go invest. Don't get on the fence. Some of those videos, if you have a kid, they're tough to watch. Go and support Ray Borg MMA. You should be doing it anyway, but this is a specific cause that for me, I think everybody really should support. And shout out to Brendan Schaub, who some people probably hate, taking care of Borg's medical bills is the rumor, and he's not going around, asking for a ton of publicity.
That's awesome. Awesome.
Pub about it. So, All that being said, enjoy UFC Buenos Aires. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday. We'll see you next week. Good luck in your contest, guys. It was fun. Take care.
Out.